Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Glassman's world. So we are doing something a little bit different today. Let's see how that looks. All right, let's mute that real quick. All right, you guys. So we're gonna get started today and show you what it takes to get the whole studio all set up from scratch. So basically, all we got is some water here. Water's life. Every drop counts. Cheers, everyone. Let's have a drink. So we're basically gonna get the torch all set up. Real simple. Um, what we've already done is we've already taken care of setting up the hoses and getting those connected to the propane and the oxygen. So we got the oxygen tank over here inside. The propane tank is actually outside, outdoor. There's a hose that runs right through the window out this way, and it goes outside to the back door. So we have the propane all hooked up and the oxygen all hooked up and ready to go. Now that the oxygen and the propane, those have regulators on each one. There's the oxygen regulator and there's a propane regulator. And on the propane tank, there's a flashback arrestor. That's for safety. So that way the flow of the gas, if there's forever any reason of a flashback, any flame that wants to travel through the gas hoses, um, there will be an arrestor that will stop the hose from basically hitting that propane tank. So that's the safety mechanism of a flashback arrestor, is making sure that we don't have any sort of explosion or anything. So it allows for the air to come this way and not that way, basically. All right, so we've got the propane tank set up, we got the oxygen set up, we have the regulator set up now, and those are all hooked up to the torch. So the torch basically is hooked up to oxygen and propane hoses. So this is a propane, this is oxygen here. On the torch, you have your propane and you have your oxygen. And this torch specifically is a Nortel. It's a major. It's an old school torch, so it actually has an old school head on it. It's a square head on it, and it has a torch on top. So this is two torches in one here. So you have the bottom burner and the top burner here, and this is actually set up with a National 3A torch. So it has the premix. So premix, basically what that means, let's make sure this is all off. So premix basically means that the propane and the oxygen are mixed before they're combusted at the torch head. Surface mix means that they are combusted at the surface of the torch right here. So these hoses, these ones here, run the bigger torch right here. So this runs your fuel going directly in. This one runs the oxygen coming in through here and around, and you have your oxygen to then light here. So you have your fuel coming through, oxygen this way. It mixes right on the surface, basically right here. And this is where the fuel or the gas will do a premix and burn in here and then come out the torch. So that's the difference between a premix and a surface mix torch. This is on a stand. So as you can see, it's a stand that's got a little swivel head here and there. So I can bring the torch up and down like that. Also, I have screw holes on each side right here, and there's one screw right there. We basically just have it set into the board here. This is Hardy Backer, which is basically a cement compressed board. and this holds it in place so it doesn't just slip in and out, but it's pretty much removable. So that's you know, my own safety there. I don't really have anyone else who works on this torch with me. Um, if I had someone else, I may have to actually sink a screw in to make sure that this torch does not come off the table while they're working. All right, so now we have the hardy backer, which is on the workbench here. We have the torch here. This is the National 3A torch with the major torch, the Nortel major, the National, and it's an old school torch. They do have a red max, which is a circular torch on the bottom and it has a red head, and that's known as the red max. They run for, I don't know, about $600 to $800 brand new. This one I picked up used years ago for like $200 to $400 if I don't remember actually. All right, so we now have the torch set up, the table. Now we need hand tools and all the other things. So a couple things that we have here are some basically some empty cans or glass jars here that we will use for collecting glass. So this is our scrap jars right here, so we can knock that off. I'll just keep this one empty and that'll be a backup, and I'll use this for when I'm traveling, so that way I don't have to have this full of shards and everything. All right, so and then we've got my readers here in case I ever need to do detail work. So we got those. We need a lighter for lighting our torch. So anytime that the torch is hooked up, you turn on the tanks. You want to make sure that your regulators are set. I have my oxygen tank set to about 18 pounds of pressure, and I believe the propane is set to about 15. No, sorry. The propane is set to about 18. The oxygen is set to 20. And that's how I set mine. I don't know how everyone else sets theirs, but that's how I use mine. Propane is the red nozzle here. I don't know if you can see that. The red nozzle. And then oxygen is the silver one here, and that's how you turn on. So you do propane first, then oxygen, and when you turn it off, you do oxygen first, then propane. What we learn as poop. Propane, oxygen, oxygen, propane. So that's how you turn the torch on and off. Okay, and that's why we have a lighter. Always have extra lighters just in case. We also need to make sure we have a crescent wrench. This is to make sure that you can get your tanks, the regulators on and off. And if you want to get the hoses off of your regulators as well, then you need to have it adjusting to where you can have a smaller size for the smaller nut on your hose, and then a bigger size for the actual regulator coming off of the tank itself. So you definitely need a crescent wrench as well. Other tools that we need. So we have the hardy backer here. There's glass set up right here, and all of this is basically a mess over here, so we're trying not to have too much focus over there. And let's move a couple items here that probably shouldn't. These are crazy. You don't need to have these, but look at that. Look at that. I'm just like, what? You got some crazy cards right here, sir. I'm pretty sure I saw one that was... There it is. Look at that. I found those the other day. Isn't that awesome? But let's move those out of the way. Let's just make sure, like, we don't want to mess those up. So everything over here is basically all just like a bunch of like scraps and trash and things. I need to kind of move them back over here. But we have this glass right here along the ledge, and it basically is a holder for all the glass. So whenever you want to put your glass across like that, then you can do so. See that? So that's for hot glass over there. We got our jar for broken glass. Let's make sure that the hardy backer is on the table properly. Nice and straight. Okay, and now some of the hand tools that we need. One of the most important things that we need are our safety glasses. So safety glasses, these are my goggles here, which, let's see if I can get them out. This isn't the proper case for them. And also, I don't know if you guys have ever known this, but my glasses are cracked. They're broken. These are $600 Glassblowing glasses, and I don't know how much it would cost to repair that, but I use them just like that. They work. They work for me. Let's see. So we got our safety glasses. These are didymium glasses. They take out the sodium flare from the flame, basically the high intense brightness from the flame. They take it out to where you can see through that, and then you can see what you're working on when you're doing the glass. All right. Another tool that we need is a pad. This is I believe, a 6-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch by 6-inch square pad. This is what I use for working on the table here when I'm having to smash the glass or doing any sort of shaping or anything like that. And a lot of times I'll use a paddle, which is basically the same material. This is carbon graphite material, which helps to absorb the heat from the glass, and so that way you don't shock your hot glass. Using the carbon graphite, it allows you to mold and shape and manipulate the hot glass without cracking it. So this is basically a smaller pad known as a paddle. This is like, what, a 2x3? So yeah, so that's 2x3. This is a 6x6 right here. And this you then use for smashing glass, flattening glass, things like that, making stuff like flat back pendants, where the glass is flat on one side, rounded on the other, and you can use this to flatten it down. And you don't want to have this molten, only have the back molten, sandwich it down, or however you need to do it to work your piece there. But this actually stays on the torch. A couple other tools that you need that are extremely important would be the reamer. This is probably even more used than the paddle itself and the pad. The reamer here is extremely important. This thing I've had for years. I know it's, people are going to be like, what is that thing? They're normally a lot longer. They have a longer handle on them. Maybe something like that. A little bit longer of a handle. And this thing has fallen and broken and gotten brittle from the heat, and cracked and broken. And I've been able to still use the sheet. I've put a piece of glass in the end of it here, so I can actually hold the glass instead of holding this part here, because this part will actually get hot. So I can actually use this and hold the glass, and that works really well for me. So, and I may actually want to have a little bit longer piece right there. This is for shaping when you're making your pendants, things like that. and you have a loop that you want to make, you want to be able to use this to shape it, round it out, things like that. If you're working really large tubing, stuff like that, then you want to be able to like melt it out and then use this to like flare it open, things like that. So the reamer comes in handy quite a bit. This is a very important tool. You want to make sure you protect it, that it doesn't roll off your table and fall and break, and then you lose your point. You know, every once in a while you can go in and you can shape these tools. Basically you can use sandpaper and shape it down. I can make it nice and sharp into a nice sharp point. It's gotten a little bit dulled over time from use, but it's still a good point for me. So that's another tool right there, the reamer, the paddle, the pad. Another tool would be your ball grabber, claw holder, grabber, marble grabber. This is for grabbing hot glass. If you need to grab any sort of hot glass when you're working it, you can use this as a tool, because you can't hold the hot glass, of course. So this is a very perfect tool for working your molten glass. And we'll set this up. This is not molten, so it's not hot. And check this out. This is actually pretty cool. It's got a jellyfish inside there, and then a little honeycomb on the back as well. Cool little marble. That one I did without a mold, so it's not perfectly round. That one did not come out very good. And other items would be this is also extremely important, the tweezers. So the tweezers here, I have these, what are they, about 10-inch long? So you want some good sized long tweezers so the heat stays here, doesn't travel up into the handle when you're working things. And this I use for like when I'm pulling points, get the color all molten, grab it, pull it, stretch it out, you know, shape it like that. So that's one way. Also, when you're finishing up something and you're getting done, and maybe the pendant's all hot, you can't pick it up to put it into the kiln. Well, then you can easily just go and you can grab it with your tweezers like this, and then put it into your kiln. That's another important tool, would be the kiln, which depending on what size glass you work, that's going to determine what size kiln you need. And you know, when you first start out, you can get away with no kiln and using hot plates and vermiculite or perlite, things that will help you to reduce the heat slowly, to slowly cool things down. With the hot plate really helps as well. We used to have like basically like a metal kind of trough, and we filled it with vermiculite, and then maybe a heating pad on top and a towel, and we would just put our glass directly into the vermiculite, and it would slowly cool it down instead of doing a rapid cool. If you do rapid cool, that's how you can tend to get things to crack and break on you. Other items would be your glass. So you would have your colored glass rods. These are basically full-size rods here. As you can see, it's, you know, they're pretty good length, longer than my forearm from my finger all the way past my elbow there. So it's longer than my arm. You know, it's at least a couple inches past my arm there. So these are sticks. They come in different, like this one here is a little bit shorter, as you can see. Right? They're both marked as jade, and they're both made by North Star Colored Glass Company. And North Star makes these, and as you can see, this one was cut here. This one was cut here. They sell these by the pound. So normally most colored glass is about $60 a pound. And then your clear glass comes in rods of various sizes. Rods this size, maybe rods, you know, real small like this here. This is probably like a 4 millimeter. This is a 16 millimeter. So you can see the difference there. They could be even smaller in, I don't know if I have any 2 millimeter sections. 2 millimeter, I think, is the smallest. Maybe they sell 1 millimeter, but I do believe 2 millimeter is the smallest, which is a little smaller than this here. This is 16 mil. This is what I normally use for making my pendants. A lot of different things. It starts with this here, the glass balloons, making the little UFO guys, the little aliens in the UFOs, making spinning tops, doing it. You know, there's so many different things that I make with this here, including when working with different colors and mixing them together and creating things like ribbon canes and stuff like this here, or then you can mix lots of different colors together. That's my rainbow ribbon cane there. That's a beautiful ribbon cane. That can make some beautiful pendants right there. So you've got rods, color rods, clear rods. The clear rods are about $6 a pound. These are $60 a pound. So it's 10 times the amount. So technically, the more colored glass that is in there, the more expensive your piece would be or should be. And then we have tubing. And tubing comes in various sizes from, you know, this size here, which is, I believe, a 38 millimeter, all the way down to like a 8 or 9 millimeter right here, which is really, really small. This is for, you know, making different things. I use these for the glass tips and for doing the dab wands, things like that. And this here, you know, you can turn this into all kinds of things. Christmas ornaments, like this here. You know, this basically is the amount of glass that would take to make this. I would just close this up and then melt it down and form it into this here. Add a little bit of color. This has got some white color in it. So then you would just add a little bit of colored glass to it, right? And then wrap it down, melt it, shape it, form it. So these are the basic items and tools that I personally need and use on a daily basis. I'm trying to think. There's a couple other items here. Of course, the kiln, like we spoke about. We got the kiln. Another item is the glass cutters. This is a glass tool, a glass cutter. It's basically like a little scorer. Let me see if I can actually score this real quick for you. So we'll line it up about there, and then I'll take the glass, spin it around like that, right? And you get yourself a nice little line. There's a little groove now in there, and I should be able to just snap it just like that. Nice clean snap. Sometimes you get a little jagged piece there, but pretty much that's a nice clean snap. And then I can use this for making the little glass tips there for you know, the smoking pieces. So this is known as a glass scribe or score for cutting glass, a glass cutter. It can cut different various sizes of glass, you know, depending on how big it is. You know, I could even cut this one there. So it's this comes in handy very well. Another glass cutter would be just a simple glass cutter like this here, where you just cut the glass on the side. And sometimes you would just go like this, make a little line, and then you can score it with just one line on the side. A couple other tools that we use would be your these here. As you can see, they got little rounded ends here. These are bigger versions of a reamer, basically. You got your little reamer that you use for making all of your pendant loops and things like that. Well, this here is for making even bigger holes. If you need to, open up a big tube or something like that, you can do so. These are also used for when you're making smoking accessories, and you need to be able to push your the front of your piece. That's how you make the bowl, is a bowl push. So you have this, and you just push that in when it's molten, and you make the bowl. So that's a bowl push right there. So we got the bowl push here, and then this one, and this is actually belongs to Rashawn Jones, his old school bowl push there, which he lent me years ago, and I was supposed to get it back to him when I got myself one, and I never really got myself one. I eventually just was given a piece of carbon graphite. I got this big old chunk of raw carbon graphite here, right? This big old chunk of it, and I ended up sanding it down on one side, tapering it. So as you can see, it's tapered down. I have it purposely tapered from really big all the way down smaller to make rings, to make glass rings. So I can make different sizes depending on how thick your finger is. And then this point here works really well. Now I have these flat spots here on this carbon graphite, which I actually indented a couple pieces here, which is my marble molds. So this is for rounding out marbles and making some really cool things like hand blown, handmade marbles. And when you're making them, you normally have them hooked up to a handle, a punty, and then you just spin them on there and you get them nice and perfectly round. So that's the marble mold that I have all hooked up to my ring mandrel, hooked up to my bowl pusher. It's all one tool, all in one. I don't know if that should be marketed or not, but I love it. I can make a bunch of different sizes of I can make them a little bit bigger and even smaller. So I can make smaller ones and bigger ones. So I may do that, and so we can make some bigger marbles. So another thing that I have on my table is smaller tweezers, just in case. A very important thing that we have here right underneath the table is your handy dandy fire extinguisher. Tells you pull the pin out, hold the unit upright, aim at the base of the fire, stand back 6 feet, and depress, right? So this is full, it's in the green. Always make sure, you can't really test them out, all going and spraying them and stuff, but make sure that you always have your safety available. Have a fire extinguisher, bucket of water, something like that, always handy and ready and available. And the other most important tool that we have would be the fan that is in the window, a ventilation fan that's going to suck out all of the propane and all of the oxygen fumes. Anytime you're working with metals, gold and silver, and you're evaporating the gold and the silver onto glass to create lusters, you want to have very good ventilation so you're not breathing in any of the heavy metals. I only use gold, pure gold and pure silver when I'm doing any sort of fuming, because any other metals are extremely toxic and very dangerous. So that's pretty much the setup there, guys. You got the workbench, you got your hardy backer, which is the compressed cement board, you got your torch, you got the hoses hooked up to the regulators, hooked up to the tanks, you got your propane and your oxygen tank. The oxygen tank is a tall 250 cubic unit tank that I have to lease or rent out from a welding supply place, and then I go and I get them refilled for about $25 each time. The propane tank is a simple 5-gallon barbecue, simple white round or cylindrical barbecue tank. Very simple, really easy. Your didymium glasses, extremely important for your eyesight. You cannot blow glass without these. You need a pad, paddle, reamer, some way to grab different objects, hot objects, a ball grabber, a claw holder, your crescent wrench for getting your regulators off the tanks, um, tweezers for pulling glass, shaping them, manipulating them any which way. You got your bowl pushers. You have your color sticks, which come in an assortment of colors, various colors to choose from. And then you have your clear glass in either rods or in tubing, in different various sizes and shapes. Well, not shapes, but either in tube or rod, and different diameters, and also in different thicknesses as well. The thickness, the wall, this is a heavy wall. I don't think I have any medium or standard wall tubing and thin wall tubing, but this is a thick wall, heavy wall, and as you can see, the thinness of this one, if you could imagine this same diameter thinness, but with this, the thickness of this glass, but with this diameter, that would be a thin wall tube. And then in between there would be like medium or standard wall tubing. So they have various thickness of tubes that we start with. I always start with the heavy wall tubing, and when I'm making my glass, I try to keep it at least that thick, which is I believe that's 4 millimeter thick. Oh, and one other tool that I do always have and use, I don't know where it's at currently, are my calipers. And that is for measuring out, oh, here they are, for measuring out different sizes of either rods. So this should be either 16 millimeter, or that's 0.62, almost 0.63 inch, or basically 16 millimeter. And you can change that to inches or millimeter there. So this is good for measuring glass. And when I'm doing things like standardized marbles for actual official marble racing, when you got to make your marbles 14 millimeter to 17 millimeter big, when you're making gauges, earrings, glass gauges, plugs, hoops, things like that, you want to make sure that the gauge is all the same thickness all the way through, so that way you're not making your clients or your wearer, the person wearing your glass, stretching up their holes or making their holes smaller if your glass isn't up to par with their gauge. So having calipers is also an extremely important tool as well. So we'll put that in there. So we got different tools all right here. Crescent wrench, extremely important for getting your tanks off and stuff like that. And that's pretty much it, guys. Anything else that I have is extra. This here is extremely important. This is the Norwex OptiCloth, which I use for cleaning my glass, getting all my fingerprints. You know, if I'm grabbing the glass everywhere, you know, all day, the oils from my hands may get on here. And I tend to keep my hands pretty clean because we have Norwex in the house. So we have, you know, the body cloths and all the drying cloths and all that stuff. So, and then doing dishes with Norwex all day. So I don't really have too many oils on my hands, but that makes the glass nice and clean, gets rid of all the lint, all the dirt, debris, hair, anything like that. So the OptiCloth is another tool that I always have on my torch. As you can see, it's attached to my torch. It doesn't go anywhere. What else do I use? I'm looking around. Besides my live streaming tools, which I have my microphone stand, I have other stands on the side of the table that hold a side view. We also have the computer in front of us with the monitor, which has it has a cam as well. It has two cams. It's got the cam built in, and it has another cam as well hooked up to it. And then we got lighting, and we got a window in front of us for good natural lighting. And the kiln. The kiln is extremely important to use to have. Other than that, that's pretty much it, guys. Before I let you go, this has been 35 minutes in. Let's do a quick demonstration. The reason why we're doing this is because I needed to reset up my whole entire table and everything, because we tore it down for the Twinkle Light Parade, and then yesterday vending during the Sunday Nob Hill East Market. So just got the table set up right now as you were watching. So that's what we were doing, guys. So now let's get this torch all ready to go. Gas is on, the tanks are on. Let's do a quick demonstration or so. Let's see what I can make real quick. What do we have? Is there anything ready to go? Look at that. This is a good one. That's ready to go. All right. So I always put this under the table, so that's just out of the way, but ready to go anytime I need to refill my tanks. Also, water is an important thing. Water is life, and you want to stay hydrated when you're blowing glass. I actually had an accident back in the year 2000, Y2K. I was blowing glass for over 12 hours, pretty much straight. I was making a whole bunch of inventory to go to Florida the next day, and I wanted to fill up a whole entire case of glass, basically like a rifle case of glass, that I was going to take to Florida. And I was working so long, and I didn't hydrate myself. But also, what I learned is you can drink a bunch of water, but you also need to replenish your electrolytes. So if you do long stints of glass blowing, you really want to make sure that you also put your electrolytes back in. So that's extremely important. Drinking water, maybe doing Gatorade. I don't drink any of that stuff because of the sugar and the dyes and everything. I prefer to do cucumber water with a little bit of lime and mint. Cucumber water, lime and mint, it's excellent. And then also just water, and water out of a copper cup also. And then, just because we're fancy here, we make ourselves nice cups of tea with the Tulsi, ginger, lemongrass tea here with a nice tea ball. Cheers. Alright, so let me get this on here and let's do a quick demo. So thanks for tuning in and watching, whoever's watching live right now. Appreciate it. And then to everyone else who's watching after this live stream, I appreciate you guys being here and tuning in, watching for a moment. Alright, let me get my glasses on real quick. Alright, and we need other glass. I need, so as far as tools, this is a piece of scrap glass I use as a handle, and it's known as a punty or pontil. Pontil or punty. And so those are used for when we're making stuff. So watch this real quick. We're going to get this clear glass molten. This is a very simple thing. What we're going to do is we're going to gather this glass up in the tip of the rod here. Going to just get the tip nice and molten, heat it up here. We'll get about a 3/4 inch of this rod here, all molten, to the point to where I'll be able to use the color glass here, which has already been pre-pulled into a stringer. So this has been melted, and then with the tweezers, I pulled this out and formed it into a stringer about, I don't know, 3 inches long. And now we're going to use this to push into the molten glass here. So let me just get my, hold this in my right hand, my dominant hand, so I have more control of it here. My left hand being ambidextrous, so I can just spin this glass in the flame with ease. to get this colored glass just pre-heated on the tip here. This will help spread out the color to create the mushroom cap. And then don't blink, don't look away. Get it right in the center, right there. I don't know if you're going to be able to watch this or see anything because I'm sure the glass is glowing on the camera, but I push it in there. I get that colored glass to kind of gather up in that spot and then force it in. The more I push that in, the more it forces that color to spread out, and also it kind of pushes it upward and umbrellas it. Now, one thing I just realized, I didn't move any of this paper here. We got balloon cards and all kinds of cool glass here. And this balloon Christmas ornament, stained glass with a paper tag on it. We're going to catch on fire. And all of my amazing cool stickers from Balloon Fiesta year after year. All the different Balloon Fiestas. Well, at least a couple of them. Alright, let's get these out of the way. Alright, now we got to get the air bubble out of here. From pushing that colored glass in there, there's an air bubble in there now. So I need to get the end of this rod all molten, but not starting from the tip, starting from above where the mushroom cap is, and allowing the air bubble to basically pinch its way out and close itself out from above the mushroom cap down to the bottom. And if you don't do this right, you can accidentally close the end before getting the air bubble out and trap some air in there, which then can cause cracking, or, you know, just having an air bubble in there. You really don't want to do that. If you don't have any air in there, then people ask, how did you get that in there? That's the magic. And you can let them know the secret, like I'm doing right now. You could break the magician's code. You know, there used to actually be a glass blowing code. They would not share any information out years ago. That's why they created the island of Murano in Italy. Venice, Italy. Venice, and then the island of Murano. They put all the glass blowers out there. So for one thing, they wouldn't burn down the town of Venice. And then the other thing, so they could keep all the secrets tucked away on an island. And you could only go there if you were a glass blower, and you were allowed to be given the secrets of the trade. And nowadays, we just like give it away freely. Here you go. Crazy what the internet has done. But there used to be this thing called the black veil, or like, you know, the hidden information. People would not let you know how glass was done, how it was made, how it was formed. There's still secrets to this day that individuals won't share certain things. To me, if you can pick up a piece of glass and you can put it in a torch and you can start doing what I do like this, and you can pick up how to do something while watching a video and not having me there, right there next to you to do it, more power to you. You know, just, you know, I wouldn't recommend doing it that way because it's very dangerous. You're working with highly volatile substances, the propane, the oxygen. You know, things are explosive here. Things are highly explosive. So you got to know what you're doing. You got to be careful. You got to be safe. And it's best to have a glass teacher, someone to show you how things are done, and especially how to be safe. I like to always teach about safety. One of the biggest things is safety. That's one of the biggest things, knowing about safety, how to be safe, keeping your eyes protected, drinking plenty of water, making sure that you remember where your hot glass is. You know, keeping your hot points that way so you don't accidentally pick up a hot point. Also, try not to touch it next to another piece of glass that you're going to then eventually pick up, because then that piece of glass could get hot. There's lots of little things. Using the reamer to form the loop, rounding out the hole, making sure it's all nice and straight. And then getting our tweezers. Like I said, we use this for pulling the color glass, right? But also for grabbing hot glass when we're done working it, using it as a handle, being able to take that off like that, and finishing up the piece. The other thing is that this pad here on the table works extremely well for small items that don't have to go directly into the kiln right away. These items, since they're so small, they're being hand annealed basically right now. All that heat's pretty much is all right there. It's gonna slowly cool down all evenly. And normally these mushrooms that I make, let me show you what that looks like actually. These mushrooms that I make here, normally they cool really well on the table here and they don't crack. All right, you want to see how that's done again? So you got your stringer here, right? And you get your glass. This is all crazy. We got to get that molten to where it starts to just gather down onto itself. So you just slowly introduce the glass into the flame. I always start with the tip, and then I'll slowly start heating up that whole little area. Go back to the tip, get that tip really molten. Then go to a thicker part, just a little bit below that, and go back to the tip. And then you slowly start bringing it down. As you can see now, it's not as long as it just was. Heating up that tip, going to the body more of the glass now. And now you can see it's really, really shrunk down. And it's all becoming one with the rod again. And so the trick is rounding this down and getting it to a point to where it's nice and round on the bottom. I mean, it doesn't have to be round. It could be pushed into a mushroom right now. But for me to keep my size consistency the same, I want to round it out to about that much there at least. Get about a 1/2 inch of that rod all molten there. Heat up the tip of the colored glass just a little bit, just the tip. Then we're going to take it out of the flame, put that directly in the center, hold it there, don't push it in too much, just attack it. Then push it in really hard, but with controlled force. Push it in until it's done. You got about 3 to 5 seconds to do that. Then you put it back in underneath the rod there, or you can detach that colored glass from right directly underneath right there. And then you get that air bubble out, go right above the mushroom cap. So right above right here where the clear rod is where you want that, the torch, the flame to be. And then you melt that down. You let the glass fall down on itself. Slowly pinch that air bubble out. And that's it. Now I'm going to call it a day, guys. I appreciate you guys sitting here tuning in and watching how my glass studio is set up. There are other various ways for glass blowing studios. Some people may have a whole entire industrial studio with lathes and really large kilns and bigger furnaces and things like that. Some glass blowers may be doing soft glass and the furnace work glass and working on the workhorses and with teams of glass blowers together instead of just individuals working like this here. This is known as lamp working. The torch is the lamp. I'm a lamp worker. I'm working the lamp right here. And this is one form of glass blowing. And I work with borosilicate glass, so it's all boron and silica mixed in together. This is a very heat-tempered glass that it's extremely durable. Let's just put it that way. And it can withstand extreme temperature fluctuations from hot to cold. Pyrex is one brand that people know. Cookware. The Pyrex brand cookware a long time ago was known for going from the freezer to the oven to the freezer kind of thing. Beautiful bakeware. Nowadays, Pyrex is no longer what it used to be, and it doesn't have the same recipe that it once was. So you have to look for, I don't know if it's the capital letters in Pyrex, or if it's the capital P with the lowercase letters. But one of those is the real version, the old school version. But borosilicate glass is basically Pyrex. Pyrex is a brand name. This clear glass rod is Scott glass or Scott glass from Germany, I believe. And there's so many other different ones. There's Pyrex, Kymax, Cymax, Durange, Scott glass. Bullseye, which is soft glass, Moretti glass, also soft glass. But as far as borosilicate, there's lots of different brand names. Well, not a lot, but there's various brand names. And then there's the color glass brands as well, like North Star and Glass Alchemy, which are the two colors that I use. There's also Paramore glass, which I don't know if I've ever gotten myself any Paramore white, but I've heard the Paramore white is phenomenal, and I would love to get my hands on some Paramore white if I could. All right, there we go, using the reamer once again. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna go get myself some lunch, because I smell some cooking going on, and I think my son was just asking me, or was about to ask me something, probably if I was hungry or what. Or if I was done, or what's going on. So, I'm going to let you guys go. We're going to keep this under an hour like I try to do every time when we do our live streams here. An hour or so. I'll be back later. I plan to be back later for Music Mondays. So, hopefully you can catch me about 8:30 this evening for about an hour playing some live music. And I may do a couple songs throughout the day today for Music Monday, just to capture one song, single song, so then I can promote those and just do a single song and have those up. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. I'm Dan the Glassman. You've been watching the Glassman's World. Here's another mushroom right there. These also are only $5 each, 5 for 20, and that's with a 2mm cord. And if you'd like, if you're a jeweler and you like to get them at wholesale, well then I can do 50 of them without the cord for $100. You take care of shipping, or if you're local, we can meet up. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. Once again, I'm Dan the Glassman. This is the Glassman's World. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you like what you're seeing here. Thanks a lot. I'm out.